Hey right bags, it's Jade. Welcome to a survival show today. Taking a look at more news about Osiris New Dawn, maybe nearly completion. A game that came out 6 years ago now is nearly supposedly at 1.0. They've got a couple updates to do, and yeah, fingers crossed this space survival exploration game will be finished. So let's go over the new news from the Steam post today and give you all the lowdown. Let's go. So this is how the post goes. We're here to announce the strong completion of Osiris New Dawn. The next update will be released by the end of this month on the experimental branch, and this is one of our major updates to be released and will focus on key areas such as expanded story elements and missions, power system with dynamic wiring, physical responsive vehicles, try running creatures over when you get the chance, expansion of the new creature AI, and underground area level design. Got tons of quality of life issues, balancing and bug fixing. I guess this is what it relates to. I'm gonna say probably a little bit similar to maybe No Man's Sky when they added the power option properly. It looks like you'll be able to do the similar sort of thing here. A power distributor and then connect the power and make sure it's fueled or got energy to run on. And from what they've shown off here as well, we've got power sources. So we've got obviously solar panels, and then it's showing how much energy or what is being powered by that, including the base, maybe some sort of landing pad, and maybe even storage, or in fact that is the actual router. So it could be good, adding a bit more complexity, but this game has had a bit of a troubled development, and I hate to bring it up every time I mention it, but it's had a lot of updates that were promising maybe the road to 1.0. So I'm really hoping this is going to be the one that actually provides it. It could do with some maybe new attention, people that haven't visited the game for a while, to come back, see the improvements that have been made, and see if it's worth a game picking up in 2022 or 2023. It looks simple enough. I like the idea. It's going to show if you're powered or not, and it'll clearly tell you when you do get power connecting to your base parts. Subnautica did that pretty well with the lights dimming automatically, and obviously the big warning telling you that something wasn't powered up. And you can see the solar panels here connecting everything together. The physically enabled vehicle sounds good as well, running over aliens and bashing into trees more. So see, you'll be able to absolutely smash through almost anything. Minerals, all sorts of plants. Apparently it's like having a monster truck on another planet. And yeah, not to mention playing Viva Pinata with some of the bugs. Now this looks really cool, something I've not seen too much gameplay of, whether or not because people just found it too grindy to get to, or whether or not it wasn't really added as proper part of the game for a while. But they've got some sort of space station in the game, and it's a major component. You can actually visit a bunch of different planets in Osiris New Dawn. Here's the module cockpit, so it looks pretty cool, pretty in depth. And yeah, you're going to have to learn how to pilot it correctly. Maybe going on spacewalks as well. Traversing through the space station's interior is apparently now a breeze. So it looks good. This is something that no other games are really doing. No Man's Sky of course has their space stations, but they're not like the kind of ones that we might perceive as being realistic. This to me looks like it could actually be made something along the same lines as the International Space Station. Be able to get rid of stuff a lot quicker and easier now. They've got a new bin system, windows improved. And that is it. They're saying that after this update, they've got one more major update planned before leaving early access, and they will be finished, a 1.0 game. As I said, 6 years on. So I guess now for maybe the negatives a little bit. Most recent reviews aren't exactly that great. In fact, it's a mix of only 43% saying positive, and it's got an overall score of around 61%. So not the worst game ever, but certainly nothing that I would say absolutely go rush out and buy. And it's had a lot of sales, 11,000 reviews. Maybe over 6 years it doesn't equate to as much as some other games, but they must have sold close to something like 100,000 copies or more. When Osiris New Dawn came out, it was just after the hype of Ark. Every survival creator out there was looking for the next big thing already because Ark exploded so much. And so it got a lot of attention from some big streamers. For a while their updates were kind of hitting, they had regular content incoming, but then things started to dry up a little bit, or certain things had to be rejigged and rewritten, which is most often the case. They're still a small tiny little studio or small group of developers. But it wasn't helpful. They had this idea of having a lot of stuff on just their test or experimental servers, and I do believe that not a lot of that moved over to the actual game in early access. So a lot of players would have picked this up, not seen many improvements, unless they knew about the experimental. Now, to most educated people that have played using Steam for more than 2 minutes, you'll know that a lot of games offer these experimental servers, and they did do plenty of news posts stating this. But a lot of people just felt like it should be moved over to the main game. And then things really went a bit weird. Again, in a similar situation, they were talking about the final steps to 1.0. They'd have a few more updates to go, and then that would be it. But then they went radio silent for like months on end, maybe 4 or 5 months, before coming out with a statement that they'd parted ways with their publisher, Reverb Games. And this is where the Ark connection comes back in, because Reverb Games are also the original publishers and part owners of Ark Survival Evolved. Before Tencent got involved, they were the guys that basically were in charge. And a CEO that owned Reverb also is a founder of Ark. So it was all a bit weird. That 4 or 5 months without any kind of communication after being told that, yeah, we've only got a couple months to go or a couple updates to go before full release. And the game wasn't in the great state then. They'd added a bunch of new systems still and players weren't really enjoying a lot of them. But then they started really ramping content up. They'd gone from maybe having this stuff happening every few months to for nearly a year after that statement, updates pretty much every single month. A lot still going to the experimental, but then they were being put out to the main branch. And it seemed like they were communicating a lot better. They were doing posts regularly, keeping updates of the new content that's coming in, showing more clips, showing more screenshots, basically trying to, I guess, drum up support. During the early access, they'd had these like experiments or experiences to try out, basically little mini missions or mini components of updates that were coming. But they got away with all that and just actually had regular updates adding content. And then there was a push, like I said, about 8 months ago, maybe a year. A lot of the usual sort of survival tubers took a big revisit of the game. And then 5 months ago, I reported that they announced that they're going to be adding console ports for the game soon. Now, in terms of hype, this is what you should do. I guess as an indie developer, maybe need a bit more support drummed up. Go ahead and start talking about your console ports. And it does do the trick. I covered it at the time. But this is what they said. They're focused on completing early access. Once the game is complete with a stable and static code base, we plan to focus all efforts to console ports in preparation for a release. So fingers crossed, if all goes well and not being a negative Nelly, Osiris New Dawn will be here as a 1.0, maybe towards the end of the year, but more than likely to be towards the beginning of next year. And then, yeah, we could see a console port hit maybe next summer. Will the game be worth it? I'm still not 100% sure about that. It's had so many changes, so many kind of ups and downs. So will it be a game worth actually taking a look at? I'm not sure, honestly. We'll have to see how this next update goes and the finished product once it hits 1.0 to give it a fair shot. I've tried getting behind certain games that have small developers, or you can see they've had issues, but they've tried to put the work in. And they certainly did do that. Once they got rid or whatever happened with them and their publisher, it did seem like they're down tools. They weren't updating the game correctly while they were stuck in some agreement. And then as soon as they got free from it, bam, regular updates. And that can happen a lot. There's a lot of developers out there that can get burned by publishers or in unfair deals. So I can only presume something like that occurred. So that was over a year ago now, and they've been doing positive stuff. So yeah, I will hesitantly look forward to this. Back in the day when I did give it a shot, I thought it was interesting, if a bit bland and a bit empty. There were some cool features like being able to use a rover or even some sort of mech suit. And they had a spaceship as well that you could use to get across certain locations. And the bugs and the insects that attacked you were pretty gnarly. You had this massive sandworm before they become super popular recently. And it would literally just come out of nowhere. Huge, massive thing. And if you were unlucky, you didn't get out of the way straight away, you were dead. It is meant to be a multiplayer game as well, or always was. It was meant to have PvP components. And of course, lots of base building, as you would expect. So yeah, I'm going to keep it on the radar. Obviously, it's going to be a busy period next year. I'm kind of hoping they do manage to get their 1.0 towards the end of this year, because there is some real shortage of good survival games, mature, hardcore survival games. So if they can release in November or December, I think that would be the best shot they've got at getting lots of coverage and maybe players to return to take a look at the progress that's been made. If it's next year with so many other competition sort of heavy games, I don't think this game's going to probably do that well. We'll have to wait and see, and we'll have to see how the ports go. It will be another one that gets added to console, hopefully not a cash grab. Actually, time and care has been taken into the port to run as optimally as it can. But yeah, I'm rooting for it, I still am, but just a little bit of caution. Let me know what you think about Osiris New Dawn. Do you remember it from 6 years ago? Have you seen other tubers play it or cover it? What about it sets it apart from some of the others? And that's it. Until next time, Ratbags, I will catch you later.